For the record. And now, your host, Art Connor.
Good morning, O land of soft, fresh breezes and verdant trees so fair. Today is Friday, the 23rd day of April 2021. I hope and I trust that everyone had a wonderful, beautiful, restful evening. Those of you who are on the roads of the Cayman Islands, whether you're a pedestrian, a cyclist, or operating any type of motorized vehicle, we urge you to please be extremely cautious. Ensure that you observe the rules of the road, and always remember the life you save may be your own. For those of you who are celebrating a birthday today, we want to wish you a happy birthday, or if you've celebrated one over the past few days, a belated happy birthday as well. Those of you who may be celebrating an anniversary today, like Trudy, Miss Trudy, and Mr. Roy Connolly, and a happy anniversary is coming from your sister Jewel. So happy anniversary to Trudy and Roy Connolly from your sister Jewel. For those of you who have lost loved ones, we want to extend our sincere condolences to you, and we hope and we trust that your faith will help to carry you through these very challenging times, and the memories of your loved ones will be a blessing. And those of you who are ill and either at a medical facility or at home, we want to wish for you a speedy recovery as well. It's been quite a while since I have been able to give you an update on the COVID-19 situation, and here's the update that was issued yesterday, April the 22nd, and the Chief Medical Officer, Dr. John Lee, reported that 471 COVID-19 tests had been carried out since it was last reported on Wednesday, the 21st of April. All of those 471 were negative. So again, Cayman, we're on the right track, and we certainly want to keep up continue to follow all of the protocols that are in place. Still some vaccine hesitancy in the Cayman Islands, and we really want to encourage as many people as possible to get vaccinated as well. We cannot be complacent. We saw, for instance, at the swearing ceremony at the Legislative Assembly, people were able to congregate, able to mix, talk with each other without any restrictions. And why were they able to do that? Because of the success that we have had in combating COVID-19. We need to ensure that we continue that. We cannot be complacent. We need more people to become vaccinated, because the more persons who are vaccinated, that will help to determine the way forward in terms of the Cayman Islands opening up our borders as well. Again, I always look at one of our sister territories, Bermuda. 6 COVID-19 deaths in 1 week. That is the most that they have had yet. They have had to reverse or return to some of the lockdown protocols that they previously had in place. And the reason for that is because COVID-19 has resurfaced. Most cases came from outside, but then they ended up with local transmission as well. So folks, while it may appear that we are out of the woods here, we are not, because we still have to move forward, and the pace and the direction that we will move forward will be determined by our success in vaccinating our public. So again, I want to urge you to, if you haven't been vaccinated, please go and do so unless there is a valid medical reason why you should not. So without any further ado, I want to say good morning to my guest again, Dr. Steve McPhail. As you know, I have him on speed dial now until things settle down and until we get back to regular programming on For the Record. So, Doc, good morning, sir. Welcome back to For the Record. Thanks for being available.
Mr. For the Record, and good morning to all your listeners in For the Record land, and good morning to all those in the Cayman diaspora. And anyone else who's listening to your voice this morning is glad to be back with you. And I always excited when you ask me to come and join you on your show.
Okay. We're getting an echo, DJ Lynn. Getting an echo. Okay, that's much better, much better. Okay. So, Doc, peaceful transfer of power on Wednesday. So much speculation after the elections on the 14th of May. A lot of speculation. Even here on For the Record, you know,
Yes.
and the night of the results as well. And no one could say definitively what would happen. I mean, right up until the 11th hour on Wednesday, before the swearing in, there were changes. There were people moving over from one side to the other. If they weren't already on one side, they were then positioning themselves. But here we are. We have a government in place. We do not yet know what the ministries and portfolios will look like, but we eagerly await that as well.
But what we don't know is who the speaker is. And
What we do.
we do.
Yeah.
And what is significant is that from the beginning of the last of this election, the last days of this election, and even on this radio and privately and publicly, I stated that even if Mr. Bush did not bring in anyone with him, all roads were going to lead to West Bay.
Mm-hmm.
And notwithstanding that the stance that was taken about him when the election was on hot and heavy, I figured that no one was going to come with a majority. In fact, most of the politicians stated that fact, that neither side was going to come in with a majority, and it was not going to be easy to form a government immediately. Mm-hmm. And I thought, and I said that they're all going to have to depend on Bush again to be able to stabilize whatever side, so that that side could form a political union and eventually form a government. And I was right about that, because all the signs were there. In fact, the signs were there the night we were calling the election. The signs were there. Mm-hmm. And so the good thing about it is that we have a government. And one thing that that amazes me, not amazes me, that one thing that satisfies me is what our new premier said in his acceptance speech when he was appointed premier on Wednesday afternoon. He said the government now was a grassroots government, a government of the people, and not from one side. And these are my words. Mm-hmm. And I said not from one side as had always been. And another thing that he said that was very significant was that this was the first time that the members of parliament were not. There were no one there who were former seamen.
Yes.
Seamen.
No member, yes.
No member who was former seamen. And that indicated that the torch was being passed to a new generation of Caymanians grown up in this island who did not have to go out in the sea to battle the sea for a living. And that is so very significant if people understand the metaphor that he was making.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, what I would add to that is that while there's no one in our parliament now who was a former seaman, we don't want them to forget, because they're still around. They may not be in the parliament, but they're still around, and we have to continue to respect them. We have to continue to assist them because they are the ones who laid the foundation for this country in terms of our economic success, and we must not forget them at all. I believe that on some platforms, some promises may have been made about increasing the stipend that seamen receive, and I think it's something that needs to be examined, whether or not we do it on a case-by-case basis or whether or not we do it across the board. But we must never, never, ever forget those who brought us to where we are now. We do have a caller. Let's grab the caller. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, gents.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you?
Not bad, and you all?
Fine, thanks.
I agree with everything Mr. McPhail said. I don't have much time, to make any comments. But this is for the country anyway. Going on in Italy, it is the A Design Award competition, and it's entitled A Design Award Competition Italy, Como. The Cayman Islands is soaring very high, and it comes under the Cayman Islands flag when you go on to the site. But the person that is roaring very high for the Cayman Islands, for a small island, and it's the only island of the Caribbean that got into the competition. It's Reba Dilbert. And imagine if she had entered more pieces. She only entered 3 pieces. So it comes on sometime later on in the day, and I do not know when the results will come out, but I don't think it's too far off now to the next couple of days. Mm-hmm. But it is good to see that a small island, how the competition is going, and really not because she's my sister, she's soaring real high, and I would like to say she had a difficult time because, let's put it like this, under some of the members of the past government, they would not even give her a free, freight duty, because I don't know what the reason, and everything that came in that had to make those costumes was for the benefit of the Cayman Islands. So I will hang up and listen further to the program.
Can you repeat for a listening audience where this information can be found?
But that's what I Google in.
Okay.
A competition award, A design award competition, Italy, Como.
Okay.
Once you put that in, it all comes up, and it is very good to see the level that she's at, because you got to remember, in the days that Reva started this, there were no schools for her to go to here, or the government didn't even offer scholarships. Mm-hmm, so I think that when the people see what's going on, if whoever views it, I think they'll feel good for the Cayman Islands.
Okay, excellent, and we want to send a congratulations and kudos out to Miss Reba as well. Thank you very much for that, DJ Lynn. We're going to take a commercial break. When we return, the conversation with Dr. Steve McPhail will continue. So don't change that dial. Please stay tuned.
The Cayman Islands boasts of a long, colorful, and rich history. In tribute to our roots, Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands, is pleased to bring you the Historical Vignette Series, brought to you by Rotary Central. For more than 110 years, Rotary members have used their passion, energy, and intelligence to take action on sustainable projects. The Cayman Islands, He hath founded it upon the seas.
The oldest known style of Caymanian home is the Wattle and Daub Cottage, which dates back to the mid-18th century. The house was usually rectangular, with foundation posts made from the termite-resistant ironwood. Gaps between the ironwood and mahogany posts were filled with a basket weave of wattled sticks and then plastered on either side with lime daub made from burnt coral. The earliest roofs were thatched using palm tree fronds, but in more recent times, wood, shingle, or corrugated zinc has been used. Windows were simple openings with wood board shutters, while smoke pots helped keep out mosquitoes. Normally, these one-story dwellings would feature a steeply pitched roof, which would keep the houses cooler as the hot air rose. The typical yard would have been shaded with sea grape and plotnut trees, and there will be separate caboose for cooking.
Radio Cayman's Historical Vignettes was brought to you by Rotary Central. For more than 110 years, Rotary members have used their passion, energy, and intelligence to take action on sustainable projects.
Every student, every parent, every boy, every girl, you are invited to the Bill Rudy Science Fair 2021. This Saturday, April 24, 9 a.m. through 12 noon, the Arts and Recreational Center, Camana Bay, the 15th Annual Science Fair by Rotary Central, featuring budding scientists ages 6 through 17 years, covering over 32 science projects, renewable energy, geology, physics, biology, engineering, environmental science, and more. Join His Excellency, the Governor, Mr. Martin Roper, and the Rotary Central President, Jeanne Moss, in review of next-generation scientists creating solutions, setting the stage for the next Albert Einstein. The Bill Rudy Science Fair 2021, a Rotary Central Youth Development project since 2006. Rotary opens opportunities.
It's time to buy smart. It's time to buy Ropers. Find everything for your home and kitchen at low prices. Ropers. Appliances, dishware, bulk foods, and so much more. With huge savings. Ropers is stocked for your hurricane supplies. Don't cut back on your needs. Cut back on your spending with Ropers. Your neighborhood store. Value. Integrity. Ropers Enterprises. 122 Industrial Way. Call 949-2511. Clean up your spending with Ropers. Ropers, providing products and services for better public health.
I grew up in a Canadian village with a general store that had just about anything you could ever need. That's what I'm reminded of every time I go into West Bay Pharmacy. It's not just because it's well stocked with necessities and oddities, but also because it's like our community hub. The staff treat customers like friends. Ron and the team of pharmacists have kept my family patched up and flu-free for years, and there are usually a few good laughs mixed in. They are truly taking care of my health and my family's health. West Bay Pharmacy is the very best of Caymankind.
Did you know that defective airbags can cause serious injury or even death if not repaired immediately? Right now, millions of vehicles around the world are under recall for faulty Takata airbags, and yours could be one of them. At Vant Motors, our priority is to make sure the Toyota or Ford you drive is safe. So we are offering customers a free, fast and easy airbag swap out if your vehicle was manufactured in 2016 or earlier. Find out if you need to have new airbags installed by emailing your Ford or Toyota vehicle's VIN or vehicle identification number to service@vantmotors.com or stop by Vamp's Service Center or call us at 949-2245. Don't risk it. Get the airbags in your Toyota or Ford checked for free at Vant Motors on Walkers Road.
There's nothing like the smell of freshly baked bread. The warm, inviting aroma, the fresh and natural taste. Just like homemade. 100% all-natural, additive-free bread.
Enjoy fresh and natural tasting bread from the iconic Caribbean Bakery. Always delivered fresh to your favorite supermarkets island-wide. Forget the imported frozen and thawed and enjoy our freshly baked selection of quality breads and pastries.
Try our classic white and wheat sandwich breads, coconut and raisin breads, hamburger and hot dog buns, and a great selection of pastries. Feed your family fresh with Caribbean Bakery.
Hi, I'm remodeling our bathroom. I have a few questions.
Sure.
What are some ideas to make my bathroom feel larger? How do I know if I'm picking the right vanity? How do I choose a new toilet or a new countertop? Also, the lighting is terrible. Can I put a window or a skylight? And do I really need an exhaust fan?
You've come to the right place. At Brand Source, we custom design kitchen and baths, and our talented design team can help answer your questions. Whether you're looking for a modern, functional family bathroom or a luxurious personal retreat, we'll help create that beautiful space that makes your home yours. And if you're in a rush for a new look and have a limited budget, our ready-to-install bathroom vanities, built with solid wood and countertops of the finest materials, are a quick and easy remodeling solution.
For the very best in custom-designed kitchens and baths, visit Brand Source Home Gallery on Dorsey Drive, Industrial Park.
Cayman's Kitchen and Bath Center.
System 1 loaded.
1-800-534-8255. What is on your mind when it comes to the government, independence, and the opposition? Issues that matter to you. 1-800-534-8255. Waiting to hear from you. For the Record.
This is For the Record with Ort Connor.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me, Dr. Steve McField. Doc, I want to... I promised that I would locate, which I did, the speech that the late Honorable Edna Moyle gave on her acceptance speech as Speaker of our Legislative Assembly on the 18th day of May 2005. The swearing in took place at 10:07 in the morning. Mm-hmm. And the persons who were sworn in on that particular day included Mr. Ralston Anglin, Mr. Osborne Borden, the Attorney General, Honorable Samuel Bulgin, Honorable W. McKeever Bush, Captain Eugene Ebanks, Mr. Anthony Eden, Mr. Klein Giddon, the Financial Secretary, Mr. Kenneth Jefferson, Mr. Moses Kekernel, Alden McLaughlin, Mr. Arden McLean, the late Edna Moyle, Miss Juliana O'Connor Connolly, Miss Lucille Seymour, Honorable Kurt Tibbetts, Mr. Alfonso Wright. There were others there who, Mr. Donovan Ebanks, he at that time, and Mr. Charles Clifford, as well. So the swearing in took place. First of all, quite similar to what occurred on Wednesday. Yeah. At that time, the prayers were offered by Reverend Joseph Crawford. Then the administration of oaths and affirmations were administered by the governor, His Excellency Mr. Bruce H. Dinwiddie. The official members, like I said, Mr. Donovan Ebanks, Mr. Samuel Bulgin, Mr. Kenneth Jefferson, and then the elected members of the Assembly. When it came around to the selection of the Speaker, nominations for Speaker, and I'll read this. The Chairman, honorable members, it is my duty and pleasure to call for nominations for the persons who will be Honorable Speaker of this Legislative Assembly. And the first elected member from Georgetown, Mr. Kurt Tibbetts, was recognized, and he stated that I beg to nominate Mrs. Edna M. Moyle, to be the Speaker of this Legislative Assembly. Miss Lucille Seymour, she seconded the motion. Then the chairman asked whether or not there were any more nominations. Mr. Ralston Anglin then said, I beg to move the nomination of Miss Deborah Ebanks for Speaker of the Legislative Assembly. The seconder was Captain Eugene Ebanks. And then the chairman sought from Miss Edna Moyle whether or not she was prepared to accept the nomination, and she did. And the chairman also said, I presume nominations that came for Miss Deborah Ebanks have been confirmed. And they said, yes, it had been confirmed, because Ms. Deborah Ebanks was not a member of the Legislative Assembly. Yes. And so the vote went ahead, and the Honorable Edna Moyle prevailed in the vote. She then retreated to her office in the back room, where she was then issued the oath by the governor, and then returned to the Legislative Assembly and gave her acceptance speech. And I want to share that acceptance speech with you, because I thought it was so well laid out what the responsibilities of the speaker were. I know that I'm not going to have enough time to finish it before we go to the 8 o'clock news. So rather than starting and then having to stop and interrupt everyone's thought process, I'm going to wait until after the 8 o'clock news and share her speech with our audience. But those were interesting times. And again, it was a situation where the speaker could be chosen from inside or outside of our Legislative Assembly. As a matter of fact, that was always in our 1972 Constitution,
That's
but
right.
we chose not
Yes.
to adopt it until, 1992, somewhere around there? Yeah.
Yes. It's very interesting, the narrative that you just gave there, because I wasn't there at that morning, but it seems to me that there was some anomaly, because she was sworn in the back room. She took the oath in the back room.
Yeah, that's where.
The governor administered the oath in the back room and not on the.
Yeah, in her, I'll find it. Something says that okay. You go ahead and talk, Doc. I'll find that.
Yeah, it says. I think you said that she then retreated into her office in the back of the assembly, and then the oath was administered there, and then she came back into the assembly as speaker. Yes, but that was a little different from what took place routines now.
Yes.
Where
quite
the speaker's the oath of office is administered to the speaker in the public domain.
Okay, it says
in the presence of everyone.
Yeah, it says the results of the ballot. Results of the balloting: 11 votes for Ms. Edna Moyle, JP. 3 votes, Ms. Deborah Ebanks. Mrs. Edna M. Moyle is therefore the new Speaker of the Honorable House. And then there was some applause. Then the clerk, and it says the Father of the House will now escort the Honorable Speaker to her chambers, where she will be administered the oath by His Excellency the Governor.
Yes.
So she that was administered her.
And who was the father of the house at that time?
The Honorable W. McKeever Bush was the
yes.
father of the house at that time, and the oath was administered. So, folks, if you're interested in hearing this, and I think it is very, very important, because what it does, she clearly lays out what she understands to be the role of the speaker, and I'm sure that she wasn't just taking that off the top of her head, that she did her research on that, looking back at British parliamentary history, and she laid it all out there. So we're going to share that with you when we return after the 8 o'clock news. Don't change that dial. Please stay tuned. We will be taking calls later on as well. Folks, 8 o'clock news. For the record, we'll be back shortly.
It's another hot day in Cayman, but the prices at Foster's are even hotter. We'll now cross live to our reporter, Ann, who's in store.
Thanks, Brad. These prices are scorching. They've got Old El Paso taco dinner kits, just 2 for $5. And certified Angus beef, strip loin steaks are just $10.99 a pound, saving you $4. But Brad, you better hurry. Prices are good until May 5th, 2021.
Thanks, Ann. Well, you heard it here first. It's time to get down to your local Foster's. For these and more great deals, go to fosters.ky.
The voice of the Cayman Islands.
89.9 FM in Grand Cayman and 93.9 FM in Cayman Brac and Little Cayman.
Silver wings shining in the sunlight.
Radio Cayman.
The 8 a.m. news is proudly sponsored by the Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan. For further information, please visit chamberpension.ky. The Cayman Islands Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan. We're here for you. We are a not-for-profit, member-centric plan with a democratically elected volunteer board of trustees representing all sectors of the Cayman Islands economy. We have an all-in expense ratio of less than 1%, over 20,000 members, and $490 million in assets under management. We were the first multi-employer pension plan approved by the regulator in the late 1990s, and today we are still strong, secure, and are here for our employees and employers alike. If you would like to join or require further information, visit chamberpension.ky. And for information as it happens, follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram. Email admin@pensions.ky or call 745-7630. The Cayman Islands Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan. We're here for you.
For today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
With your latest news, I'm Carsley Fuller. In his first address to the island as Premier, the Honorable Wayne Panton revisited the community theme at the core of his successful election campaign.
The story of our country and our people was never about doing what was easy, but about doing what was right. It was about our abilities to overcome these challenges that made us who we are. And because of these challenges, we are better people, we are better citizens, and we are a better community.
Mr. Panton says it was this better community which created the rich culture and heritage of the Cayman Islands and helped nurture tolerance and friendliness.
It was this better community that created the economy we have today that makes the Cayman Islands one of the best places to live and work on this planet. An economy that we must strive to support and continue to grow in order to better serve our communities and country. In short, ladies and gentlemen, community creates country.
Parliament resumes today at 10 a.m. We'll be carrying the proceedings live on our sister station, Breeze 105.3 FM. There will be a replay at 7 p.m. tonight on Radio Cayman. The Health Services Authority's summer internship program is currently accepting student applicants after a one-year hiatus due to COVID-19. Details from CIGTV's Donna Bush.
Since the COVID-19 pandemic, the need for healthcare professionals has been highlighted globally. In Cayman, the Health Services Authority is keen to identify young Caymanian talent from as early as the junior high school level and support their professional development. As the HSAs execute its strategic plan and expands their services over the next few years, HSA officials say they will be recruiting talent for a number of new clinical and non-clinical roles. The summer internship program is a tool used to identify and train young Caymanians so that they can return to join the team HSA upon completion of their studies. Now, applications for the 2021 Summer Student Internship Program are due by April the 30th. Internships will commence on June 1st and end on September 17th. Now, for more information on the HSA Summer Student Internship Program, you can go online to hsa.ky.
And Providence Property is set to host its second annual virtual charity auction. Radio Cayman's Felicia Rankin-Solins reports.
The second virtual charity auction will be in benefit of Cayman's Acts of Random Kindness. Founder and director of ARC, Tara Nielsen.
Well, we're delighted that they've chosen ARC for the second year annual auction. Last year, it was a tremendous success despite pretty much being in the throes of COVID and us not being in a position to really do as much resourcing. Because we were responding to COVID with our Kindness Kitchen and emergency response. So we've had more time this time to resource. So we're anticipating, making a lot more money this year.
For Ms. Nielsen, a selling point with the auction is it encourages people to repurpose items.
What's beautiful about this is it incorporates repurposing, which is a really big thing and very important, with the whole topic of the dump and recycling and the environment thing, which is something we do in ARC all the time with building supplies and clothing and you name it. So we could turn a chest of drawers, for example, into food, water, electricity, and housing. So it's an amazing thing to be able to do for people who can't necessarily give money. They can give things that, were once treasured to them, but perhaps they don't like it anymore or use it anymore. Somebody else can love it, and we can use the funds to help people who are in crisis.
Senior Marketing Communications Coordinator at DART, Alana Warwick-Smith, says last year they were able to raise $50,000.
The auction has so many items, from staycations to designer fashion and jewelry to wellness, beauty services, and even smaller items that start at a $10 opening bid. There's something for everyone. And of course, there are luxury home goods and decor.
To donate items, email auction@arccayman.org. For Radio Cayman News, I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins.
To register for the auction, head to ppci.cbo.io. At your latest news, I'm Karsley Fuller.
The 8 a.m. news is proudly sponsored by the Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan. For further information, please visit chamberpension.ky.
The Cayman Islands Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan. We're here for you. Are you aware of the performance of your pension plan? The Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan provides quarterly fund fact sheets for our members to stay informed with the plan's performance. For the year ended August 31st, various life cycle funds provided returns between 9.2% and 16.5%, and our all-in expense ratio is currently the lowest it's ever been, a record low at 0.72%. Visit chamberpension.ky to review our fund fact sheets. You can see the performance as far back as 10 years. Remember that pensions are a longer-term investment strategy. Focus on the long term rather than the short-term returns. The Cayman Islands Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan continues to perform for you.
Stay in touch with Radio Cayman for the latest in news and information.
Follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, www.radiocayman.gov.ky.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice, your radio.
With Logic, you get more things you do want, like faster fiber internet, more TV, entertainment, and better customer service. And you get less of the things you don't want, like waiting, boredom, and disappointment. More of the good, less of the bad. It just makes sense. Or should I say, it's logical. See what I did there? Call us or go to logic.ky to find out how you could be getting way more of what's good.
That thing we've been saying for 64 years, ignore it. Eat the KFC wings, drink the KFC gravy, fill up on fries. Just please forget the thing we normally suggest. You know, that thing you used to do with your tongue after finishing a delicious piece of our KFC chicken. We get it. It's not easy. There's a reason why it's been our slogan for over half a century. But the world's drastically changed of late, and as soon as we can embrace the change, the sooner we can all get back to doing what we do best. KFC. It's good.
The 8:10 a.m. weather report, Monday through Friday, is proudly sponsored by Pan American International Insurance Corporation. Pan American International Insurance Corporation, meeting the life, accident, and health insurance needs of individuals and businesses to ensure financial security and peace of mind. For more information, call 949-8304 or visit www.palig.com. That's PALIG.com.
For over 100 years, more than 5.8 million people across the Americas and the Caribbean have placed their trust in Pan American Life Insurance Group. We have delivered on our promise and have proven that we're more than just an insurance company, we're family. To learn more about our first-in-class group health and employee benefit solutions, please visit Pan American Life Insurance Company of the Cayman Islands at Unit 221, Cannon Place East, North Sound Road, Grand Cayman, or contact us at 949-8304. You can also visit us online at www.palig.com. Pan American Life, people you can trust for life.
For additional weather information, visit www.weather.gov.ky. As well, stay in touch with Radio Cayman for the latest in news and information. Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice, your radio.
The 8:10 a.m. Weather Report, Monday through Friday, is proudly sponsored by Pan American International Insurance Corporation. Pan American International Insurance Corporation, meeting the life, accident, and health insurance needs of individuals and businesses to ensure financial security and peace of mind. For more information, call 949-8304 or visit www.palig.com. That's PALIG.com.
For over 100 years, more than 5.8 million people across the Americas and the Caribbean have placed their trust in Pan American Life Insurance Group. We have delivered on our promise and have proven that we are more than an insurance company. We are family. To learn more about our first-in-class individual and group life, disability and accident solutions, please visit Pan American International Insurance Corporation at Unit 221, Cannon Place East, North Sound Road, Grand Cayman, or contact us at 949-8304 and visit us online at www.palig.com. Pan American Life, people you can trust for life.
During these unprecedented times, Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands, is pleased to bring you the Cayman Strong Series. The Cayman Strong Series is brought to you by OnCourse Cayman. Visit oncourse.ky to view a full list of wellness services and their qualified team. OnCourse Cayman, health, wellness, and happiness.
Achieving your goals is a very rewarding feeling, but at times can feel very frustrating, especially if and when we miss our target. As you approach your goals in life, set yourself up for success.
When setting your goals, tell a friend. Having an accountability partner is often helpful in achieving your goals. Let your parents and partner know what you are planning or doing. Sharing with others also helps us to develop the ideas and our vision. Writing down your goals can help to solidify them for you and help you to stay accountable.
Change your thinking and change your life.
Radio Cayman's Cayman Strong Series was brought to you by OnCourse Cayman. Visit oncourse.ky to view a full list of wellness services and their qualified team. OnCourse Cayman, health, wellness, and happiness.
These days, feelings of loneliness, anxiety, stress, and depression can be overwhelming. Just know you are not alone. OnCourse Cayman offers private mental health services for children, teens, adults, and groups. Visit oncourse.ky to view a full list of wellness services and their qualified team. OnCourse Cayman, health, wellness, and happiness.
The traffic report is brought to you by Subway. Planning a meeting, event, or office celebration? Visit subway.ky to place your catering order today.
Things just got a bit hotter on the island. Come in today and order the new spicy Korean subs at Subway. They're sweet, spicy, and especially satisfying. Stop in and try the pulled pork with spicy Korean sauce, or the chicken with spicy Korean sauce. And you can message WhatsApp at 929-4658. Order online or use Let's Eat or the Bento app. The spicy Korean subs at Subway in 2 flavors, extra saucy and extra spicy. Subway, eat fresh.
The traffic report is brought to you by Subway. Planning a meeting, event, or office celebration? Visit subway.ky to place your catering order today.
I'm looking for a new pizza joint with that perfect crust. My car needs a bit of a tune-up, and my pregnant wife needs something from the pharmacy. So I turned to the printed yellow directory, and in an instant, the pizzas are ordered, the oil change is booked, and the thing that I'm not allowed to say out loud has been purchased for my wife. Problem solved. When you need something quick, do yourself a favor. Flip through the printed yellow directory. Stop searching, start finding. Yellow, we know local.
The Lions Club of Grand Cayman Breakfast is back Saturday, April 24th, starting at 7 a.m. at the Lions Community Center. Enjoy a tasty Caribbean breakfast of turtle gumbo, turtle stew, fried fish and fritters, liver and onions, and ackee and saltfish, starting at only $12. And help support your community. The Lions Club of Grand Cayman supports sight screening, prostate and colon cancer awareness, Miss Teen, Spelling Bee, and so much more. Get your Caribbean breakfast and support the Lions Club of Grand Cayman in their community efforts. Saturday, starting at 7 a.m. at the Lions Community Center.
For the record, with Ort Connor.
Initiating system. For information that matters. For the record, with Ort Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. It is my pleasure to have in the studio with me this morning Dr. Steve McPhail. Also, what do we have here? Happy birthday to June from Jewel, and also to Eddie McLaughlin from his grandparents as well. So, June, happy birthday greetings coming from Jewel, and Eddie McLaughlin, happy birthday from your grandparents. So, Doc, we're talking about the proceedings in our Legislative Assembly on Wednesday, the 18th of May, 2005, when we had the swearing in of our members of the Legislative Assembly at that point in time, and we were to where the Speaker, the election of the Speaker took place, and the late Honorable Edna Moyle prevailed after she then went back to her chambers so that she could be sworn in by the then governor, Mr. Bruce Dinwiddie. And then she returned. And so, DJ Lynn, I'm going to ask you to hold off on those calls just for a while, maybe about 10 minutes. So she returns then to the chamber, and she says, please be seated. The legislature of the Cayman Islands is in session. Before I proceed to the order of business, I crave the indulgence of this honorable house to say a few words. It is truly a privilege for me to take the chair as Speaker of the Legislative Assembly on this momentous occasion. I do so with much gratitude and great pride, fully cognizant of the tremendous responsibility and authority that this position holds. The office of Speaker is an ancient and honorable one, steeped in tradition and convention. It is an intricate feature of our system of governance, and the proper exercise of the functions of this office is critically important not only to the operation of the Legislative Assembly, but ultimately to democracy itself. It is an awesome responsibility and a position of trust. It is the duty of the Speaker to ensure that there is fairness, decorum, and decency in the Legislative Assembly, and that democracy flourishes. Democracy is not just about majority rule. It is also about minority rights. Certainly, it is the duty of the Speaker to facilitate the work of the government and to ensure that the business of the House gets done in an efficient manner. But importantly, it is also the duty of the Speaker to protect the rights of the minority and to insist that the voice of the opposition in the House is not stifled. Adequate opportunity must be given to members of the opposition to make their points as forcefully as they deem fit within the bounds of common decency and parliamentary decorum. Likewise, it is the duty of the Speaker to ensure that the opposition is not handicapped or placed at a disadvantage because of the abuse of the provisions which permits the government to suspend standing orders and railroad through legislation without adequate notice. I take a very dim view of the practice which has grown up in this House of generally ignoring the requirements that bills must be published at least 21 days before they come to the House for debate and passage. I strongly encourage the new government today to be more organized than its predecessors and endeavor to adhere to the notice requirements. The suspension of standing orders is intended to be the exception and ought not to be the rule. I also intend to prepare and publish a calendar of the regular meetings of the Legislative Assembly so that everyone, legislators and the public at large, will be aware in advance of the dates of meetings and can plan their lives accordingly. This is the start of my 4th term as an elected member of this honorable House. Prior to that, I served 8 years in this House as Deputy Clerk and 5 years as Deputy Speaker of this Legislative Assembly. I have attended numerous parliamentary conferences, and I do understand the tremendous importance of this position and the need for the Speaker not to just be fair, but to be perceived as fair by both sides of this House. I give this House and the country my solemn undertaking that I will discharge my duties diligently, firmly, and fairly. As has been previously announced by the leader of government business, this is an interim appointment. It is the intention of the government and myself that I should hold this office only until the completion of the constitutional modernization process, and that the new constitution will provide that the Speaker must be elected from outside the membership of this House. I want you to take note of that, Doc, because we're going to talk about that later. Regrettably, I must respond to an allegation made publicly by the Honorable Leader of the Opposition that the PPM, that is People's Progressive Movement, has already broken a campaign promise by my election to the office of Speaker. It has been said that the PPM campaigned on the basis that it would appoint a Speaker from outside the membership of the House, and that this was one of the key planks of our manifesto. The government can speak for itself, but I feel I must address this issue as it relates to me personally and affects my credibility and my ability to discharge the duties of this office fairly and honorably. We did not campaign on that basis, and no such promise appears in our manifesto. What we have said is that the new Constitution should provide that the Speaker come from outside membership of the House. This view we still maintain. However, The present Constitution permits the election of the Speaker both from within the elected membership of the House and from outside. In anticipation of the new Constitution, an important part of my functions and duties over the course of this interim appointment will be to modernize the parliamentary practices within the House, to revise the standing orders, and to achieve autonomy for the office of the Speaker by separating it from the portfolio of internal and external affairs. These are all important prerequisites for a modern constitution and a modern legislature. The achievement of these objectives requires someone with considerable experience and knowledge of these matters, and I feel I fit this position very well. The members of the House must be able to trust the Speaker to perform those important duties competently and fairly. In the present circumstances, my colleagues have reposed their trust in me to discharge the functions of this important office, and I am deeply appreciative of their confidence in me. I will not breach that trust. The country at this time needs healing and national unity. I pray for it each day. I am delighted, therefore, that Mr. Klein Glidden, the third elected member for West Bay, has accepted my invitation to be the new Deputy Speaker of this House. Notwithstanding the heated election campaign and the results of the election, I believe it is important that all districts in these islands are recognized and accorded respect in this House. Mr. Klein Glidden has proven over the course of the last term to be a capable Deputy Speaker, and I look forward to working with him over the coming months. I wish to close by thanking Almighty God, my family and colleagues for their support, and the people of Northside for returning me for a fourth consecutive term by the largest majority ever. I will serve you as I have always done, with humility and commitment. I have an undertaking from the government that the district's agenda I have prepared will be addressed, and I have every confidence that Northside will receive its fair share of government's resources and attention. It is my intention to meet with the leader of government business monthly to ensure that the program for the District of Northside are being taken care of. I wish God's richest blessing, I wish God's richest blessing on our people and on this beloved country of ours, these Cayman Islands, we all so dearly love and cherish. Thank you. And that was met with applause after she concluded that. So, a few things in there. The one in relation to the Speaker coming from outside. The Speaker must come from outside the Legislative Assembly. We know that didn't happen.
No, they were hoping that the 2009 Order in Council, that would have been a feature in that, but that didn't happen. I think that the British government did not allow that to happen, that a Speaker should come only from outside the House. So what obtains now in the 2009 Constitution, it comes over from the 1972 Constitution, right, and the amendments there too. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so now we have the situation where a Speaker can come from inside the House, or a Speaker can be elected from persons outside the House who are qualified to be members of the House.
Okay. And the other thing that you should take note of, and I know you have spoken about this in the past, and I think it's extremely important because we see recommendations being made and comments being made by the Constitutional Commission. And I know one of the areas that you feel strongly about has to do, with the Speaker and how the Speaker is handled in the Parliament, especially when the Speaker is chosen from amongst the elected members, because you have constituencies, you have people who have voted for that person to be a member of Parliament. They become Speaker, and some people feel that their ability to truly represent their constituency may be hampered as a result of sitting in the Speaker's chair. And
not really.
Well, what I wanted to point out was that despite the fact that we have nothing in our Constitution, and probably not even custom until she adopted it here, where she pointed out that she has an agreement with the government.
Yeah, she has an agenda for her constituency.
And she has laid that out there so to ensure that will be taken care of, so that she does not then have to compromise her position as Speaker.
That's right. She does not have to take part in confrontational politics and partisan politics, and therefore she can act absolutely impartial in administering her duties in the House. Another feature of her speech also, Orit, is that she was from 2005 advocating for the autonomy of the House, of the Speaker. I understand that it had been taking place, but I see nothing now about the conclusion of that.
Well, only just recently that has happened now. Yes, so the Speaker now, the Speaker now has responsibility.
Yeah, but there's no bill doing that. There's nothing in the House that says that. I was trying to follow up that the other day.
Okay.
And there's nothing that has concluded that is the position. The Speaker of the House is still the Speaker of the House, and the Parliament is still subject to the control of the Deputy Governor. And that cannot be so, because that's really a conflict of interest. That cannot be so. The legislature has to be completely autonomous from the executive branch of government, and I understand that it is in the pipeline. It is subject to talks and consideration. But
I think it's gone beyond further than that. But I'll try to do some research in between and see what we can find on it. We've gone past our commercial break, DJ Lynn. So I'm coming to you now, folks. Please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly.
There's nothing like the smell of freshly baked bread. The warm, inviting aroma, the fresh and natural taste. Just like homemade. 100% all-natural, additive-free bread.
Enjoy fresh and natural tasting bread from the iconic Caribbean Bakery. Always delivered fresh to your favorite supermarkets island-wide. Forget the imported frozen and thawed, and enjoy our freshly baked selection of quality breads and pastries.
Try our classic white and wheat sandwich breads, coconut and raisin breads, hamburger and hot dog buns, and a great selection of pastries. Feed your family fresh with Caribbean Bakery.
I grew up in a Canadian village with a general store that had just about anything you could ever need. That's what I'm reminded of every time I go into West Bay Pharmacy. It's not just because it's well stocked with necessities and oddities, but also because it's like our community hub. The staff treat customers like friends. Ron and the team of pharmacists have kept my family patched up and flu-free for years, and there are usually a few good laughs mixed in. They are truly taking care of my health and my family's health. West Bay Pharmacy is the very best of Cayman kind.
The Green Turtle app. So many options. One easy solution. All new subscription feature to automate your weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly top-up. Makes your life easier. Never lose a number again. Keep your children on budget. Yes! Make sure you can stay in touch with your loved one. Woohoo! No hassles. Green Turtle makes it easy. Take a ride on Cayman's Green Turtle Express. Choo-choo. Download the Green Turtle app today. It just makes life easier. Remember, you can get mobile gift cards for Xbox, PlayStation, Apple, and Spotify delivered right to your phone. Playtime is now in real time.
What's that? No sugar, same amazing taste? Coca-Cola Zero Sugar is here to stay.
No one can stop
Classic taste, pure satisfaction. Be sure to stop into any Tortuga location and get your own case of Coke Zero. Or grab an ice cold one straight from the cooler. Brought to you by Tortuga Distributors Limited. Coca-Cola, taste the feeling, Cayman.
System 1 loaded.
1-800-534-8255. What is on your mind when it comes to the government, independence, and the opposition? Issues that matter to you. 1-800-534-8255. Waiting to hear from you. For the Record.
This is For the Record with Ort Connor.
Good morning. Welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me this morning, Dr. Steve McField. We have some more happy birthday greetings here. And this one says, happy birthday greetings today to Mrs. Rita Mae Bush of Northwest Point. And those happy birthday greetings are coming from Mario, Lavinia, Marcy, James, Dalkeith, and Leonard. Many happy returns to Miss Rita Mae. Okay, Doc, I think it was on Wednesday, someone called in about the budget deficit. And one of my listeners had this observation, and they say that the caller is confusing the 2020 budget deficit with the amount the government has in reserves. The country still has significant reserves, and we have substantial income from financial services that is received early in the year. So we are fine financially. And as was said on this show, if needed, we have a line of credit available. It is can be drawn down and no interest charged yet, but an arrangement fee was paid. So they're not paying any interest on that money that is held there. They're paying they have paid an arrangement fee, but I guess until they start to draw down on it, if they were to start to draw down on it, then that's when the interest is there. So again, what the person is trying to point out is that for those persons who feel that the Cayman Islands may be in some financial difficulty at this point in time, that is not the case.
Well, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see the audit. I guess that any administration, whether you're working in the private sector or whatever, once you come in new and taking over a new company or a new administration, you want to know what the bottom line is before you take charge. And I think that we'll know when they ask for, when this government calls for an audit, to actually tell them where they are financially. But I can't say that there no deficit. I don't know. I mean,
what we can almost certainly rely on, though, the fact that we do have a Minister of Finance, but we also have a Financial Secretary, and the Minister of Finance's obligations. One way, while the Financial Secretary, who is a public servant, that's in another direction altogether. He has to be upfront, straight up with everything. So even if the Minister of Finance were to try to say, let's fuddle this.
Oh yes, I agree.
So that's the backstop that we have there.
I agree. I'm not casting any aspersions. I agree that you're supposed to be upfront, but sometimes the figures are different from what people think they are. When you drill down into it, sometimes you might say it's 20 million or 30 million, and then you find it's only 10. Or sometimes you might say it's 10 million, and then you find it's 20 or 30. So until when I see the figures on the bottom line today, or whatever it is, when the government say that they're in charge, whenever I see what the official figures are, then I will say that what the deficit is. But they say that the deficit was about 35 million. This was at the beginning of the year. So 4 months has gone by now, and so those figures cannot be the same as they were.
Definitely. There was something else that you wanted to talk about, if I recall, when we were off air. There was something that when we returned that you wanted to talk about.
I wanted to talk about the premier or elected premier.
Oh yes, okay.
And the family that he comes from. Mm-hmm. You know that they were that family was the I call them the administrating family, the local administrating family. I think they were. His grandfather was one of the first commissioners in the Cayman Islands. I have a photographs of an old photograph. I think it was taken in the 1920s or 30s, when his grandfather was a young man, and there was the young man of the day. Also, his granduncle, Mr. Ashford Panton, mm-hmm. which is the father of Mr. Ormond Panton, and his grandfather would have been Mr. Berta Panton. And and then just after, while he was being sworn in, and while he was being sworn in, somebody was saying to me that what's the history of the whole thing, and I was saying, well, there's always been this difference between the McTaggarts and the Pantons. The first time this appeared was 1962. And, in the 18th and 19th of January, when the Blackburn came down to tell us that Jamaica was going into independence, and Jamaica, the administrating country, was given Cayman a new self-governing governing in the Constitution, mm-hmm. and the only thing that prevented us from adopting that immediately was the fact that we didn't have a defense system, and we didn't have external affairs offices. And Jamaica said they would prepare that. I think was the cost of £20,000 a year, or £10,000 a month. I think it was £10,000 a month or something
mm-hmm.
like that.
I'll find it in
but anyway, there was going to be a charge for that.
Mm-hmm.
And then we would have had internal self-government. Now, the new constitution would have promoted and entailed a chief officer. Not a chief officer, a chief minister. A chief minister, mm-hmm. and we would be governed by a lieutenant governor, but a lieutenant governor, because the chief minister would have such powers.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Mr. Ormond Panton had departed the National Democrats, I have said, won the majority since they had 7 out of 12, and they were destined to be the government. Mr. Panton would have been the first chief minister, and they orchestrated that to oust Mr. Panton from that position, and Dr. Roy McTaggart, in the debates that they had on the 18th and 19th of January 1962, orchestrated the fact that Cayman was getting a full internal self-government, with Jamaica providing those services to us at a price. What he said, he changed the tenor of the whole thing, the whole narrative, and said that we were going into independence with Jamaica, and people actually believed that. Which was not the case. People actually believed that was so, but that was not the case, and that misinformation that the people received caused them to vote to become a crown colony instead of going into internal self-government, and of course that stemmed from the vitriol that they had against Mr. Ormond Panton,
mm-hmm.
and I would like to share with your listeners a case that came against Mr. Ormond Panton in 1960.
Okay, we're going to take a commercial break, and when we return, we're going to have you share that with our audience. Folks, please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly.
I grew up in a Canadian village with a general store that had just about anything you could ever need. That's what I'm reminded of every time I go into West Bay Pharmacy. It's not just because it's well stocked with necessities and oddities, but also because it's like our community hub. The staff treat customers like friends. Ron and the team of pharmacists have kept my family patched up and flu-free for years, and there are usually a few good laughs mixed in. They are truly taking care of my health and my family's health. West Bay Pharmacy is the very best of Cayman kind.
Whether you're finishing a new condo, upgrading your rental property, or simply renovating, make Roper's Enterprises your first stop. Quality furniture at a fraction of the price. Find everything for your home and kitchen at low prices. Roper's, your neighborhood store. Value, integrity. Roper's Enterprises, 122 Industrial Way. Your home deserves a quality finish. Visit their showroom or shop online at ropers.ky. Ropers, providing products and services for better public health.
Honey, our fridge has stopped working again. Everything in the freezer is melting. We need to get this repaired right away. I'm calling Brand Source Service.
When you need the very best appliance service, call Brand Source Service at 623-5000. Offering service and installation of all brands and models of appliances. Brand Source Service is Cayman's source for appliance parts and repairs with qualified and experienced technicians and the island's largest stock of appliance parts. Brand Source Service will have your repair completed in a flash. So, whatever the problem is, call the experts at 623-5000. Brand Source Service, Dorsey Drive, Industrial Park. Telephone 623-5000.
For the record, with Ort Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matter. For the record, with Ort Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me, Dr. Steve Macfield. Doc, go right ahead and share some
the
history
case,
with us.
The case involved Mr. Panton, Mr. Ormond Panton, and the magistrate, then Robinson, a man called Mr. Robinson, the magistrate. And the case involved false imprisonment. So Mr. Robinson, who was the stipendary magistrate of the Cayman Islands, issued 3 warrants for the arrest of Mr. Panton on information sworn by the chief of police and drafted by himself. One of the information was in relation towards abuse directed against the magistrate. The appellant Mr. Panton, was arrested and taken before the magistrate, and 3 charges were read. And then a 4th warrant was also issued against him, 4 arrests, and an additional charge also in relation to the abuse of the magistrate was read. Mr. Panton was released on bail and appeared in court on remand on 5 subsequent days. Finally, the charges were heard by another magistrate and dismissed in an action against the judge, the magistrate, for damages for false imprisonment. The judge of the Grand Court of the Cayman Islands held that the magistrate had acted within his jurisdiction by issuing the warrants to arrest Mr. Panton, and that the allegations of malice and lack of reasonable and probable cause had not been proved by Mr. Panton, and he dismissed the action. And Mr. Panton appealed the case to the Court of Appeal in Jamaica, and it was urged that the magistrate had acted without jurisdiction in issuing the warrants to arrest Mr. Panton, and that he was an interested party. And then they responded to the magistrate. It was argued that he had issued the warrants as judge of the Grand Court of the Cayman Islands and was entitled to immunity from liability. And the court held that the magistrate had issued the warrants in his capacity as magistrate and not as judge of the Grand Court of the Cayman Islands, and that he had not acted without jurisdiction and issued a warrant, and that the information upon which the warrants had been issued did not, in the circumstances, disclose any offense known to the law. Now, let me share with you what some of the things that Mr. Panton said in which he was arrested for by warrant of the court. The relevant information and warrant charge was uttering to a police officer in the execution of his duty the following words, to wit, this is what Mr. Panton had said: you have exceeded your powers. You have no right to take the action that you have done, and you will have to resign, which tended to deter the said officer from his duty. He was charged with that as an offense. And it also went on, and it said that plaintiff also admitted that on July the 7th, he put up a notice in a notice board outside the courthouse. That's what they said Mr. Panton did. there were 2 informations and warrants relating to this venture in which accurately set out the terms of the notice of these. The first charges was against Mr. Panton was said this: he unlawfully did publish the following words, to wit, Ormond Lauder Panton likes to think of Mr. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. Robinson, in the terms of the following old proverb, thus: when monkeys are prone to their antic passes, the higher they climb, the more they expose their asses, which tended to a breach of the peace. And the second charge published of the same words, which tended to scandalize the government by abusing one who is entrusted by it with the administration of justice. So those were the things Mr. Panton was arrested for and hounded out of office, during his lifetime, because he stood up for what was right and what was just. And today, it's no surprise to me now that the Panton now is leading the country, and he's leading the country with the grassroots, with a grassroots parliament that his uncle was also trying to lead back in the 1960s. And so I want to know, what is the relevance of that, and how does history absolve the Panton people now? And I wonder if Mr. Panton, the new premier, the current premier, had any thoughts about that. Perhaps he didn't even understood this thing, and so it seems to me that this runs deep into the blood of the Pantons, that they have always been the underdogs in the island where it comes to politics, and that now they're running now the country now, and he reached in a higher office today than his uncle was trying to reach and was entitled to have reached in the 1960s.
Okay. Well, what's interesting, and there's another story here about Mr. Panton again, but in relation to the assembly, it is actually called the Legislative Assembly Management Bill 2020, and I have been reliably informed that this bill was commenced on the 15th of December 2020. Parliament is now autonomous. The Deputy Governor is no longer responsible or has administrative oversight for Parliament, and they have suggested that I look at the sections that describe the composition of the commission and the council of the commission. The Speaker is the chair of the council, and by making the Speaker the chair of the council and having a commission, it ensures that power is not in one person's hands. Power does not reside in one person's hands as regards to the management of the Legislative Assembly. Now, in October of 2020, when this was introduced by the then Premier, Mr. Alden McLaughlin, he spoke about this management bill, and he said that they had set a date for this to be done previously, and he said we did not meet that date. In fact, it has been taken us 5 years, but I am certainly glad to be here today to present this bill for it to become law. But sir, and he's speaking to the Speaker, but sir, that was not the first iteration of the idea to make this honorable assembly independent of the civil service. A similar motion was made in 2006 under the first Progressive administration, and indeed has been a topic of discussion since the conflict between the legislative and the executive was officially recognized for the first time in 1954 in a famous tussle between Commissioner Andrew Gerard and Mr. Ormond Panton. So they hooked up again in 1954 in the House. It says Mr. Gerard, who was the presiding officer of the Assembly, as we know the administrators presided, they were judge, jury, and executioner. That's right. All in one, right? So it says Mr. Gerard, who was the presiding officer of this assembly, moved the motion involving his own salary or pension and offered to vacate the chair of the assembly while it was debated. He proposed the assistant commissioner, Mr. Desmond Watler, should sit instead. Assemblyman Panton rejected on the basis that just as the commissioner had a conflict of interest, so too would Mr. Watler. The standing orders at the time said the assembly could appoint a chairman from amongst themselves, and Mr. Ormond was proposing Mr. Warren Connolly. Neither man backed down. The commissioner stormed out of the town hall where the legislature was being held, jumped into his car, and drove off in a rage. There were more encounters involving Mr. Panton that would lead to an eventual separation of powers. Mr. Panton and his father operated a shop and had a truck that they used to for deliveries. Back then, you could license the truck quarterly, half yearly, or yearly. Mr. Panton had licensed his for half a year and had forgotten to get it renewed. In all, some 14 people had failed to renew their license, including the clerk of courts. The commissioner ordered the clerk to write to the 14 offenders about the license issue. Mr. Panton recalled in his biography, A Special Son, that his letter said that he should go to the commissioner's office and explain why he had willfully failed to pay this tax. Mr. Ormond refused, and it escalated to where Mr. Panton learned that the commissioner, who was also head of customs and resident magistrate, was going to try him himself after Mr. Panton had been elected to be tried by two Caymanian JPs. On the day, I'm going to stop there because we have to go to headline news. But Dr. McPhail, I know you know the story already.
Yes,
but I will continue to share it with
we'll
continue to share it with our audience after
that case
when
went
we
to
return.
The Court of Appeal in Jamaica also.
Right,
and that's the case against Panton against Sherwood.
Right. Okay, and we'll revisit this when we return from our headline news at 9 o'clock. So, folks, please stay tuned. For the record, with Dr. Steve McPhail, we'll be back shortly.
The voice, the heart, the soul of the Cayman Islands.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
Your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
Government reported the results of 471 COVID-19 tests on Thursday. All came back negative. So far, more than 63,000 COVID-19 vaccines have been administered to date in the Cayman Islands. India's healthcare system is buckling as a record surge in COVID-19 cases puts pressure on hospital beds and drains oxygen supplies. Families are left pleading for their relatives who are desperately ill, with some patients left untreated for hours. Crematoriums are organizing mass funeral pyres. Today, India reported 332,000 new cases of coronavirus, setting a world record for a second day running. Deaths were numbered at 2,200 in 24 hours. And the United States military is sending airborne assistance to aid Indonesia's search for a missing submarine with 53 crew. Indonesian authorities estimate they have just hours left to find the Navy submarine before the oxygen runs out. The KRI Nanggala 402 disappeared Wednesday during exercises off the coast of Bali, sparking a frantic search to locate the stricken vessel. Those are your headlines. I'm Karsley Fuller.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
For the record, with Ort Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matters. For the record, with Ort Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning. Welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me, Dr. Steve Macfield. We do have a caller. Let's go to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Morning, Mr. Hossein. Good morning, Dr. Steve. It's Johan Moxham. How's it going, gents?
Good morning. Good morning. Fine. Thanks very much. And congratulations to you on your initial run. And I hope that you aren't deterred from continuing.
No, as Arnold Schwarzenegger said, I'll be back.
Okay.
Yes.
Gents, thanks for the sort of historical stuff that you guys are presenting and sharing this morning. Always enjoy when you and Dr. Steve are in the station. Always educational, always informative.
Thank you.
Forgive my ignorance now. This is, I ran for election and wasn't successful. But now that we've got to the stage where you've got an elected government, you've got ministries, perhaps you both can help educate me and the public. Is it possible for the elected government to rejig the sort of ministry alignment as to what they think best suits them and their skill sets? Or is that dictated to by the civil service led by the cabinet secretary or the deputy governor? Have no clue how that works. The reason why I say that is because sometimes if you look at putting ministries together, one would think that education and labor would go together.
You look for synergies.
Wait, sir?
I said you would look for some synergies.
Yes, exactly. So can you guys walk us through that process? And also, Mr. O.C., as a former cabinet secretary, who chooses their chief officers and their deputies? How does that work? Is it the politician that says, I want to work with Mr. O.C., but I don't want to work with Dr. Steve, and so on and so forth?
Okay, well, if I would like for you, don't hang up. I'd like for you to stay on the line because, we could probably have some back and forth on this and some clarity as well. When I was cabinet secretary, certainly we put together the combination of the various ministries and portfolios. It wasn't cast in stone because we knew at the end of the day that either the leader of government business or the premier, as it became, would want to have the option to change. We looked at the best combinations and made suggestions. The premier has the right to juggle those around and change those. Those that fall under the responsibility of the governor, in terms of his powers, reserve powers and everything else, of course, are untouchable unless the governor decides that some of the responsibilities that he has, that he can assign them to other ministers. For instance, prisons. No one ever wanted prisons before. No one ever thought that prisons could be under an elected minister. And we saw that happen when Dr. Frank Macfield was a minister. So things like that. But yes, the incoming administration, the premier and his ministers have to have the right to choose how they want their portfolios to be established, to be aligned. They must have that. They can get suggestions and advice from the civil servants, but at the end of the day, it is theirs. When it comes to the assignment of chief officers, some ministers may have a particular chief officer in mind. I am sure that also that is something that can be negotiated. What I don't believe would be negotiable, though, would be to say that person is a chief officer and I don't want them to be a chief officer anymore. Now, they may be able to move them from one to the other, but you can't decide who is going to be a chief officer and who is not. You may want to have some discretion in terms of who may be your chief officer. And any observations, any further comments based on that, Mr. Moxham?
No, thank you very much for that. I think sometimes it sounds like we're playing Russian roulette and the public don't really know how these things happen. So your experience and explanation makes sense. But Mr. Osei, I had another question for you.
Sure.
And that would include now, if we get to the stage whereby the Premier and the Cabinet decide that they're switching up things as they see fit, portfolios that is, if I have a policy position and you are the chief officer, I've heard scores of former ministers say, I didn't get to run the show, and the chief officer basically did what they wanted to do. But is it correct in saying that from a policy perspective, the chief officer is compelled to implement the policy of the political directorate from an administrative perspective? So how do we fall into the trap where it's always the chief officer who seems to be the god with no sort of accountability or consequence?
Can I answer that?
Sure, Doc. Go right ahead.
That would mean, Mr. Moxon, you have a weak minister or a minister who is not qualified to be minister. The chief officer is there to carry out the policy of the government, and that policy will be set down in their manifesto and what they campaign upon. The chief officer cannot do what he wants to do. The chief officer is there as a sort of a official servant of the minister. And I would just like to refer you now to the first question you asked, Mr. O.C. If you pick up a book called First Among Equals by a man called Jeffrey Archer, it will outline to you and give you the whole history of how the cabinet is made up and who usually is chosen for cabinet. In the UK, when you have a new government and and especially when you have a new prime minister, it's very interesting reading to see how the jockeying starts. From the time the poll comes in and you have the prime minister, you see all of the senior members of the party, of the government, sitting by their phones. They'll sit there for 24 hours waiting because they have to wait for the call. They have to wait to get the call from the prime minister of whether he's going to call them down to 10 Downing Street or not. Some people will be sitting there for days waiting, and then they sort of give up when the time goes by because they know my name is not on the list to be called to 10 Downing Street. And sometimes you see how their wives, before the election, put on parties and invite the prospective prime minister to function so that they can jockey to get the position, to get their husbands in as ministers. It's very interesting, but in the end, it is the function of the person who is in charge of the government in our jurisdiction, the premier, to say what ministries, how the ministries, the portfolio is going to be juggled, who's going to get them, and who is going to be assigned to them. That is the thing that's for them. And as I already told you, they have no right to tell the governor under the Constitution that the portfolios that he's responsible for who should be there. But certainly it will be Mr. Panton who will direct what ministries that the people in his government and his cabinet are going to be assigned.
Okay, Mr. Moxon, I'll add some more to that, and I'll refer you to Section 54 of our Constitution, subsection 6 reads, a minister charged under subsection 1 with responsibility for the conduct of any business of the government may be assisted in the discharge of that responsibility by a board, committee, or other similar body consisting wholly or partly of persons who are not public officers and established by law made under this Constitution. Or by directions in writing given by the minister concerned, and any such body shall have such advisory, consultative, and administrative functions as may be conferred on it by such a law or direction. But in exercising any such function, the body shall be subject to the directions of the minister concerned. Those are bodies, right? Here's subsection 7, where, and this one really answers your question, where a minister has been charged under subsection 1 with responsibility for the administration of any department of government, the minister shall, subject to this Constitution and any other law, exercise general direction and control over the department, and subject to such direction and control, the department shall be under the supervision of a public officer And then it goes on to say, but 2 or more departments of government may be placed under the supervision of one public officer. So the minister will exercise general direction and control over the department itself.
That's right.
And but the department is under the supervision of a public officer. So when it comes to staffing and things of that nature, disciplining of staff,
that's
and
under
whatever,
the public officer.
That's under the public officer.
Yes.
So you will hear ministers say, also, I'm not, I can't control the civil service.
That's right.
But the department is under his control because that department is going to be carrying out their policy, the policy
that they voted, that they came to power on.
Exactly.
Yes.
Gents, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge. Really appreciate it.
Well, thanks for such a good question because it helps us to enlighten everyone.
And pick up, and since you are in politics, pick up Jeffrey Archer's book, First Among Equals.
I shall, sir. Thank you so much, guys. Have a great day.
You too. Take care. Okay. DJ Lynn, we'll take a commercial break now so that we can get ready for the next one. Please stay tuned. For the record, we'll be back shortly.
The Green Turtle app. So many options. One easy solution. All new subscription feature to automate your weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly top-up. Makes your life easier. Never lose a number again. Keep your children on budget. Yes. Make sure you can stay in touch with your loved one. Woohoo! No hassles. Green Turtle makes it easy. Take a ride on Cayman's Green Turtle Express. Download the Green Turtle app today. It just makes life easier. Remember, you can get mobile gift cards for Xbox, PlayStation, Apple, and Spotify delivered right to your phone. Playtime is now in real time.
Hi, I'm remodeling our bathroom. I have a few questions.
Sure.
What are some ideas to make my bathroom feel larger? How do I know if I'm picking the right vanity? How do I choose a new toilet or a new countertop? Also, the lighting is terrible. Can I put a window or a skylight? And do I really need an exhaust fan?
You've come to the right place. At Brand Source, we custom design kitchen and baths, and our talented design team can help answer your questions. Whether you're looking for a modern, functional family bathroom or a luxurious personal retreat, we'll help create that beautiful space that makes your home yours. And if you're in a rush for a new look and have a limited budget, our ready-to-install bathroom vanities built with solid wood and countertops of the finest materials are a quick and easy remodeling solution.
For the very best in custom-designed kitchens and baths, visit Brand Source Home Gallery on Dorsey Drive, Industrial Park, Cayman's Kitchen and Bath Center.
Did you know that defective airbags can cause serious injury or even death if not repaired immediately? Right now, millions of vehicles around the world are under recall for faulty Takata airbags, and yours could be one of them. At Vant Motors, our priority is to make sure the Toyota or Ford you drive is safe. So we are offering customers a free, fast, and easy airbag swap out if your vehicle was manufactured in 2016 or earlier. Find out if you need to have new airbags installed by emailing your Ford or Toyota vehicle's VIN or vehicle identification number to service@vantmotors.com or stop by Vamp's Service Center or call us at 949-2245. Don't risk it. Get the airbags in your Toyota or Ford checked for free at Vant Motors on Walkers Road.
The Lions Club of Grand Cayman Breakfast is back Saturday, April 24th, starting at 7 a.m. at the Lions Community Center. Enjoy a tasty Caribbean breakfast of turtle gumbo, turtle stew, fried fish and fritters, liver and onions, and ackee and saltfish, starting at only $12. And help support your community. The Lions Club of Grand Cayman supports sight screening, prostate and colon cancer awareness, Miss Teen, Spelling Bee, and so much more. Get your Caribbean breakfast and support the Lions Club of Grand Cayman in their community efforts. Saturday, starting at 7 a.m. at the Lions Community Center.
For the record, with Ort Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matter. For the record, with Ort Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. Dr. Steve Macfield is in the studio with me. I'm going to continue now to share with you the situation between Mr. Ormond Panton and Commissioner Gerard and in relation to the licensing of the family truck that they use to transport their goods to the various districts and to their customers. as well. So Mr. Panton opted to be tried by 2 Caymanian justices of the peace. It goes on to say that and this is being related in our Legislative Assembly by the then Premier, Honourable Alden McLaughlin, when the introduction of the bill to make the Parliament autonomous body. It says, on the day of the trial, Mr. Panton made objections to the Commissioner trying the case, since in his capacity as Collector General, he was the same person who instituted the proceedings. Mr. Panton was found guilty and ordered to pay £8 immediately, and he announced his plans to appeal. A Jamaican judge came to Cayman, heard the appeal, and reduced the fine to £4, which Mr. Panton still refused to pay, saying, "I can't be 50% wrong and 50% right. If I accept this, I am accepting some wrong, and I am not wrong. First of all, he had no business writing me that I had willfully neglected to pay my taxes, and secondly, it was wrong for him to sit on the bench and to try me when he had introduced the proceedings. He tried to appeal the matter to the appeal court in Jamaica, but government told him that cases tried in petty session court in the Cayman Islands could be appealed only to the Grand Court, and no further. The conviction would have to stand. To make a long story short, Mr. Panton wrote to the Lord Chief Justice of England. A law backing up Mr. Panton's right to appeal to the Jamaica court was unearthed in no other place than the British Museum. He won the appeal and his conviction was squashed. It goes on to say that in another instance, Mr. Panton spoke out against a decision made by Judge E.M. Robinson, and that's the one that you spoke about before, who was presiding in the Cayman, president of the Cayman Sports Club, to suspend him from the club, 3 men who had been charged with theft of liquor, and goes on about that as well. So those are some stories. Now, one of our listeners has written in and said, good morning. Due to my age, I don't really know too much about Mr. Armand Panton. Could you say what was the color of his skin? The history of the Cayman Islands needs to be taught in our schools. So I have Mr. Armand's book, A Special Son, written by Dave Martins in collaboration with Mr. Orman, and trying to find the precise details in there. I don't want to ad-lib in any way. I want to find it in Mr. Orman's own words about his family background. So we will continue to flip through the book to try to find out, to give you an answer before the end of the show today as well. So, Doc, anything that you want to talk about?
I was trying to find it for you.
Okay, I'll take a shot at it now while you talk.
The thing about what really happened, the background to what really happened with when Mr. Orman had to write to the UK to allow him to appeal to the Grand Court, is because there was one law that direct how you could appeal from cases from the Cayman Islands to the Court of Appeal. But when Mr. Orman went to find the law, they only had one copy of the law and he couldn't find it. And Mr. Orman always used to tell me he think they hid the law from him, so he couldn't find it, and he had to write to England to get permission to do so. Okay. And so those are some of the exploits of Mr. Panton. But and the reason why I brought this up this morning is because we don't know what would have happened in 1962 if Mr. Panton had been given the right to take his rightful place in the history of this country as far as the legislature was concerned. He was denied and cheated out of the position of chief minister, out of the chief minister's position in a full internal self-government constitution, and we don't know if we had gone into full internal self-government where we would be today, whether we would have been in an independent mode, or whether we would have been equal to in political terms and in constitutional terms where Bermuda is today.
Mm-hmm.
I believe we would have been on par with Bermuda today. We would be able to have full internal self-government, running our own affairs, and perhaps we might have been better off than we are politically, and educationally and politically, because Mr. Ormond was a forward-thinking man. A lot of people have said that he
man before his time.
Before his time.
Yes.
And
had him now.
And so now we wonder now whether the grandnephew of Mr. Panton now is in his time, and whether we can say that he's before his time. Well, we'll wait and see, because it's not what people say. We have to look and see what they do, and we know that this young Panton is very adamant about the environment and about making Cayman better for all of us. And so the reason why I brought that up this morning is because those were the things Mr. Panton wanted also, to make Caymanian better for all Caymanians and not just a few people.
Okay, we do have a caller. Let's go to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Yeah, good morning. I'm speaking. Good morning, Mr. O.C. Good morning, Dr. Steve.
Good morning.
I could be in 2 minutes now. In recent history, you see the dominance of the current speaker now. In 2017 election, right? You recall, like, you didn't put no candidate in Dorchester Central, Prospect, in Newlands. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
That shows you the influence or the control, the dominance of it. You see where I come from?
Okay, yeah.
You know, everybody was so anticipated with the start election, right?
Mm-hmm.
And carefully, let's go see. I'm appraising and evaluating carefully this part government, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean panic and nothing else, right? Obviously, it's a change, right? The curator of it.
Mm-hmm.
So comes from, and you know what I call in. I go beyond the horizon now. See? It's like the whole era now. The world is revolutionized. The radical change in a parallel era.
Okay.
So I wrap up now. Different there. That was showing you what strategy was all about, because Mr. Panton, collectively accompanied several candidates. That was the wise strategy. You see where I'm from?
Mm-hmm.
So you gotta be careful. People like were opposing the speaker, right? So like all politics, simplicity. So Cayman now, we're blessed in this horizon, in this hemisphere. So I hope we put our act together.
Mm-hmm.
They move, navigate, seal, safe and seal, carefully, different. Okay?
Good words. Good idea. Yes.
So, this whole interaction with the government, like I said again, I repeat myself, I evaluating, I praising, and watching it.
Okay.
All right, carefully.
Excellent. Take care. DJ Lynn, I think we can take one more call before we go to a commercial break. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, Mr. O.C.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, Miss Georgette.
Good morning, Dr. Steve Maxfield.
Good morning, Miss Georgette. How are you this morning?
Well, I am so grateful God gave me another day. But I know more about Mr. Ormond Panton than the two you put together.
I'm sure you do. Share some with us.
Yes.
I attended his wedding. I was at his wedding, and when he started having those meetings, political meetings, I don't think I missed a single one. And when I graduated from high school, his youngest brother, Mark Patton, I have the picture here in my living room now.
Mhm.
He was one of in the class with me, and I admired Ormond very much. As I said, I don't think I missed one of his meetings. They used to take place out in the courtyard there by the what is now the
museum.
Museum. And he was a great guy, but he had a lot of opposition.
Yes.
Opposition that he should never have had, because one thing in Cayman, I am a Caymanian, and I will say it, and anyone who wants to say it isn't so, I'll tell them that they know it's true. Envy, jealousy. We hate to see another Caymanian get a little
Succeed,
higher
yes.
position than we are in at the present time. That has been happening for donkey years, and I suppose it will be happening long after I'm gone in dust. And I am not bragging, but if God lets me see September 19th, I'll be 94 years old.
Wow.
God bless all of you, and God bless our three beautiful, wonderful Cayman Islands. And may we do everything we can to keep them as near as possible to what they should be and what they used to be. God bless you all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you very much, Miss Georgia. Thank you very much for that. DJ Lynn, I'm going to go a little bit over the commercial break, but I've found this, and I want to share this with the person who wrote in and asking about Mr. Ormond Patton's background, his ancestry, the color of his skin. He asks about in the book, A Special Son, written by Dave Martins. The part that talks about Mr. Ormond's childhood, and that's under the chapter Early Times. It says that Ormond Laura Patton's ancestors were missionaries from Dundee, Scotland, who had gone to Calabar, Africa, and there one of the Pattons had fathered a child with one of the black servants from Africa. Servants from Africa. The black members of the family had gone to Falmouth, Jamaica, as slaves, and their descendants came to Grand Cayman after emancipation. And this is a quote: "My great-grandfather, James Coleridge Patton, came here in 1866 with a wife and two children, Albert, Ernest, and Helen. He and Frederick S. McTaggart, Dr. Roy McTaggart's father, came together. They were teachers. My great-grandfather had only two children, and the family took one of the McTaggart's children, Sissy, and raised her. It was obvious my father was colored. He was dark with kinky hair, and one of my brothers, Kendall, looked exactly like him." He goes on, Mr. Ormond goes on to say, "I have one memory of my grandmother. She was a small wattle and daub. She was in a small wattle and daub house in the family homestead known as Panton Square, and she was lying on an old four-post bed, and a cloth over the top of it to catch any insects falling from the thatch. My Uncle Ernest took me over there one evening. He had a flashlight, and which was a novelty in those days, and he flashed it in her face. I remember she looked like an Indian. She said to him, Emil, you bad boy, you burned me. That's my only memory of her. I think I was about 4 or 5 years old at that time. Time for us to take a commercial break. Folks, please stay tuned. For the record, we'll be back shortly.
Did you know that defective airbags can cause serious injury or even death if not repaired immediately? Right now, millions of vehicles around the world are under recall for faulty Takata airbags, and yours could be one of them. At Vant Motors, our priority is to make sure the Toyota or Ford you drive is safe. So we are offering customers a free, fast and easy airbag swap out if your vehicle was manufactured in 2016 or earlier. Find out if you need to have new airbags installed by emailing your Ford or Toyota vehicle's VIN or vehicle identification number to service@vantmotors.com, or stop by Vant's Service Center or call us at 949-2245. Don't risk it. Get the airbags in your Toyota or Ford checked for free at Vant Motors on Walkers Road.
There's nothing like the smell of freshly baked bread. The warm, inviting aroma, the fresh and natural taste. Just like homemade. 100% all-natural, additive-free bread.
Enjoy fresh and natural tasting bread from the iconic Caribbean Bakery. Always delivered fresh to your favorite supermarkets island-wide. Forget the imported frozen and thawed, and enjoy our freshly baked selection of quality breads and pastries.
Try our classic white and wheat sandwich breads, coconut and raisin breads, hamburger and hot dog buns, and a great selection of pastries. Feed your family fresh with Caribbean Bakery.
What's that? No sugar, same amazing taste? Coca-Cola Zero Sugar is here to stay. Classic taste, pure satisfaction. Be sure to stop into any Tortuga location and get your own case of Coke Zero. Or grab an ice cold one straight from the cooler. Brought to you by Tortuga Distributors Limited. Coca-Cola, taste the feeling, Cayman.
Every student, every parent, every boy, every girl, you are invited to the Bill Rudy Science Fair 2021. This Saturday, April 24, 9 a.m. through 12 noon, the Arts and Recreational Center, Camana Bay. The 15th Annual Science Fair by Rotary Central, featuring budding scientists ages 6 through 17 years, covering over 32 science projects, renewable energy, geology, physics, biology, engineering, environmental science, and more. Join His Excellency, the Governor, Mr. Martin Roper, and the Rotary Central President, Jeanne Moss, in review of next-generation scientists creating solutions, setting the stage for the next Albert Einstein. The Bill Rudy Science Fair 2021, a Rotary Central Youth Development project since 2006. Rotary opens opportunities.
For the record, with Ort Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matter. For the record, with Ort Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. It is my pleasure to have in the studio with me this morning none other than Dr. Steve McPhail. Before we went to the commercial break, I shared an excerpt from Mr. Armand Panton's book, A Special Son, written in collaboration with Dave Martin. And you might have heard me stumbling a little bit there. The writing in the print in that book is fairly fine, and my eyesight is starting to get a little bit challenging these days as well. But I'm going to have Dr. Steve McPhail share some more of Mr. Armand's story about his early childhood, early years from that book as well. Go ahead, Doc.
And the reason why we're trying to share this story this morning is that we want to show that the Premier is not from an elite family. They are elite as far as their service to the government, but they are from grassroots people. And we believe that he also is a grassroots person. And by the things that he has said in his acceptance speech, that we can believe that he is will accommodate the desires of grassroots people.
And the person who made that request in the first instance say that the reason that they asked really is because they were wondering whether or not the opposition to Mr. Panton could have been due to his lineage.
Yes, yes.
As well.
And say so. There was an incident with a thick circular stone. He said the thick circular stone was mounted in a box with water for cooling the blade when grinding, and it was turned by means of a hand crank. I must have been about 5 or 6, and I was playing with it, turning the handle. I must have turned it so fast that it fell over and broke. Well, he was furious so much so that he took his belt and beat me. That was something Rue Claridge at South Sound. And said the upshot of this was that the incident blew up into a family squabble. When Ormond's mother, Nee Phyllis Laurel Coe, heard the licking, she confronted her father for that was Ormond's grandfather, his mother's side. She confronted her father for beating a young child over an incident. That means that she confronted her father for beating his grandson over the incident. And in a fair's argument, usually frank for that era, she told him he disliked Ormond because Ormond's father was colored. Beat red with anger, she stormed out of the house with her young son. She told him if it had been one of his other grandchildren who were white, he wouldn't have done anything, and she stayed away from his house for months and months. And when I said I was never going back there, she didn't protest. The only time I ever went back to that house was in the late 1920s when he was dying. 6-year-old Ormond Panton took the incident to heart, probably fueled by his mother's accusations of racism, and it affected his relationship with his mother's side of the family down through the years.
Wow, okay.
So that incident, so what we know that Mr. Ormond Panton and his family had some African heritage in their family, and they were and this is my opinion. It was for that they were treated so badly in the Cayman Islands at the time, and that they were denied the position of power, and they were denied the position that the people had spoken back in 1962 and had given to him to move the country forward. And I hope that does not continue today, that certain people in certain places will deny the fact that the young Premier Panton now is in a position of power and is trying to move the country forward. And I hope that history does not repeat itself in those circumstances.
Yeah. Now, I keep saying this every time I refer to this book. And this book was published by Pansons, the publisher, which it appears to me it was a family publishing company.
Yes.
They established it specifically for the purpose of...
Yes.
But this book really, really needs to be made available. It needs to be reprinted. It is very, very difficult to find. This is one of our national heroes.
Yes.
Now, I know if the government were to commission the reprinting of this, or in some way even to give financial incentives to the Panton family, that the current premier is likely to be accused of favoritism and stuff like that. But someone needs to do it. Someone needs to do it. We need to make this book available. This is our national hero, a special son.
Yes.
And it should be made
And
available.
I would like to go on to say, if anyone is interested in reading all those cases that we talked about today, they can find them in the West Indian reports, in the West Indian law reports. The editorial board is the Chief Justice of the West Indies and the Chief Justice of Barbados, British Guyana, Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, and the Windward Islands and Leeward Islands. And the editors at that time was the Honorable Mr. Justice Archer, a federal justice, and the Honorable Mr. Justice Fields. You remember Mr. Justice Fields was a Grand Court judge. Mr. Justice Fields was a judge of the Supreme Court of Barbados. And the Honorable Mr. Justice Waddington, a judge of the Supreme Court of Jamaica, which was also Attorney General here. And the Honorable Mr. Justice Date, a judge of the Supreme Court of British Guyana. And the Honorable Mr. Justice Hayatali, a judge of the Supreme Court of Trinidad. And the Honorable Mr. Justice Lewis, a judge of the Supreme Court of the Windward Islands and the Leeward Islands. So all of those cases that should be really in part of our curriculum in our high schools and in our private schools, you can find them in all of these periodicals, and you can find the cases with Mr. Orman against Robertson and against Sherwood, and all of those cases you can find them in the West Indian law reports. And it would be interesting to see now if we could get some of these things in our history, since we have now a Panton lead in the country.
Okay. Doc, we're gonna take a commercial break, but I'm gonna alert you to this. I know you always walk with your copy of your Cayman Islands Constitution. We want to look at Section 84 of the Constitution, because I had a conversation with someone yesterday, and they have a very valid point, on that, because they're still questioning the governor's dissolution of the Legislative Assembly or the Parliament. They still have questions about that dissolution based on Section 84, and they have compared it with several other overseas territories' constitutions, which have read completely different than this one. And I know you and I discussed it before, but we want to look at it again. DJ Lynn will take the commercial break now, the last one for the morning. Folks, please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly.
Did you know the third most important factor for customer retention is cleanliness? With 95% of shoppers saying exterior appliance influences where they decide to shop. Keep your business clean with Roper's Janitorial. From offices to restaurants, interior and exterior, walls to rugs and flooring. Roper's cleans it all, including 24-hour emergency service. Roper's Janitorial, 949-2511, or email janitorial@ropers.ky. Dress your business for success with Roper's Janitorial. We make your business shine. 949-2511. Roper's, providing products and services for better public health.
The Green Turtle app. So many options. One easy solution. All new subscription feature to automate your weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly top-up. Makes your life easier. Never lose a number again. Keep your children on budget. Yes. Make sure you can stay in touch with your loved one. Woohoo. No hassles. Green Turtle makes it easy. Take a ride on Cayman's Green Turtle Express. Download the Green Turtle app today. It just makes life easier. Remember, you can get mobile gift cards for Xbox, PlayStation, Apple, and Spotify delivered right to your phone. Playtime is now in real time.
What's that? No sugar, same amazing taste? Coca-Cola Zero Sugar is here to stay. Classic taste, pure satisfaction. Be sure to stop into any Tortuga location and get your own case of Coke Zero. Or grab an ice cold one straight from the cooler. Brought to you by Tortuga Distributors Limited. Coca-Cola, taste the feeling, Cayman.
45 years. 3 beloved isles. 1 beloved station, Radio Cayman. The voice. The heart. The soul of the Cayman Islands.
45 years young. Happy anniversary, Radio Cayman.
For the record, with Ort Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matters. For the record, with Ort Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. My pleasure to have in the studio with me this morning Dr. Steve McField. We're on the last leg of the show. Dr. McField will be back in the studio in a second. Meanwhile, I will share Section 84 with you of our Constitution, 84.1, subsections 1, 2, and 3. Section 84, subsection 1 reads, the governor, acting after consultation with the premier, may by proclamation may prorogue the Legislative Assembly and shall do so annually. So at the end, the Parliament is for a 4-year term. At the end of each year, the Parliament must be prorogued. Right? Subsection 2, and the governor can do it at any point in time, but it must be done annually. Subsection 2, the governor, acting after consultation with the premier, may at any time by proclamation dissolve the Legislative Assembly. Now, a dissolution of the Legislative Assembly is what took place before we went to the general elections. The Legislative Assembly, the Parliament, was dissolved. It could have been recalled in the event of any emergency. That is why members of Parliament continued to be paid during that period of time. I don't agree that they should be paid after they have not been successful in the election, but yes, they will continue. And then subsection 3 reads, the governor shall dissolve the Legislative Assembly, now Parliament, at the expiration of 4 years from the date which the Assembly first meets after a general election, unless it has been sooner dissolved pursuant to this Constitution. So if the Parliament had run its full 4-year term, at the end of those 4 years, the governor had to dissolve the Parliament. Now, what the discussion is about is that Section 84, subsection 2 was used. The governor, acting after consultation with the premier, may at any time by proclamation dissolve the Legislative Assembly. Their argument is that the governor has to initiate the action. They don't believe that the premier could go to the governor and say to the governor, I want you to dissolve. They feel that it has to be a situation where the governor feels that it is necessary to dissolve the Parliament. They also point to the constitutions of other overseas territories that read completely different and that says something to this effect, that the governor, acting in accordance with the advice of the premier, may dissolve the Parliament or the Legislative Assembly, that is a completely different scenario than the governor acting after consultation. So in the second scenario that I have presented, where the governor acting following the advice of the premier, in that situation, it indicates that it's the premier precipitating the action, not the governor. In our 84 subsection 2, they say that the real reading of that, the governor has to precipitate it. The premier can't go to him and say, I want you to dissolve Parliament. What do you say?
I disagree with that.
Okay.
And I say that the operative words is may. Mm-hmm. The premier can consult with the governor all he wants. The premier can consult with the governor all he wants. Mm-hmm. The section said, after consultation with the premier, the governor may do it or he may not.
Mm-hmm. But what about that other part in terms of who's allowed to initiate the action?
It's obviously how the section reads is that the governor cannot dissolve the assembly by proclamation by himself. It has to be with some consultation from the premier.
Well, but you just said also that he said that he may or may not. He can't. May means that he can or cannot.
No,
so.
he can't do it without some consultation with the premier. He just can't say, I'm going to dissolve the assembly. It has to be on some consultation. And after the consultation, he may do it or he may not do it. It's what we call the executive power of the crown.
Okay.
It's the exercise of the royal prerogative, and he can only exercise that not unilaterally, but he can, after some consultation with the premier, he can do it or he cannot do it. Because go on and look at what the other section says.
But what they also pointed out was that the governor in his announcement of the move, the intention to dissolve the parliament, he said that he did it basically on the request of the premier or something of that sort.
Of course. That's his excuse for exercising his prerogative power.
Okay.
But you have to go on and listen. You have to go on and look at what it says in subsection 3. The governor shall dissolve the legislative assembly at the expiration of 4 years from the date when the assembly first meets after any general election, unless it has been sooner dissolved pursuant to this section. What that section says, the governor has the discretion to dissolve the assembly at any time between the prorogation and the dissolution, but he has no power to dissolve it after 4 years has expired after the next election.
He must do
it.
Yes.
He has no
can't
power.
Let it go beyond that.
He can't let it go beyond that.
There are recall provisions. Now, question then, Doc. If what occurred in, what was it, March?
Yes.
Couldn't this section have been written much clearer than this, like the other some of the other overseas territories constitutions that says that the governor acting on the advice of the premier may be, because consultation and advice.
I know. I agree. I agree with that. I agree with your points there. But you must remember now that some of those overseas countries people, they know how to use the Westminster system better than we do. Because I'll tell you a story about, I told you a story about in 1995 when in Trinidad and Tobago, when they had a speaker who was favoring the opposition and had named three members of the government, and so they named them and suspended them from Parliament, and then was trying to get a vote of no confidence so that the opposition could become the government. And the government went to court and got them got them temporarily installed back in their seats in Parliament until the case was heard. And then the Speaker refused to call Parliament together, so they couldn't be reinstated in their seats back in Parliament. And there was a confusion in the country. No Parliament. The ministers, three ministers, have been suspended from their seats and from their ministries. And then what the government did, the premier, I think it was Manion, decided that we have one ace in the hole. We can still call a state of emergency. And they call a state of emergency around the Speaker's house. And the Speaker could not come out during the state of emergency. And so they called the Deputy Speaker, who went in the chair, and they passed a motion to oust the Speaker. They passed a motion of no confidence in the Speaker, to oust the Speaker. And then they got back into Parliament and they did what they want to do. They have been more educated about the Westminster system of government, this politics, than we are. And so I don't think our people were looking at these nuances, these differences and these nuances the way they would look at them. We were not going through this with a fine-tooth comb every second. They were not doing that. And so they accepted the position, well, only on consultation with the with them that the governor could dissolve the assembly.
Or it's quite possible that those persons, the Susan Dixon and the Ian Hendricks, interpretation was similar to yours, that it is workable. The way
it's
that
workable,
it
yes,
yes. That is a possibility.
But I think that is the interpretation. I think that he said you may come and you may consult with the governor about dissolving the assembly, but the governor has the final word whether he can do it or not. He can say I'm not doing it.
Yeah, because that provision is in all of the other constitutions that are written otherwise as well. The final decision is the governor. At the end of the day.
That's
right.
Okay,
Doc, we're getting close to 10 o'clock. I want to give you an opportunity for any observations and closing comments.
Well, I know you were going to ask me about that. So I while you were talking, I wrote down a few notes that I would like to share with your listeners. I would say we have a viable way of governing ourselves. We do have a viable way of governing ourselves. It has been tested through our history since responsible government in 1959. There is no gainsaying the fact that this is an extraordinary period in our parliamentary and democratic life, and I applaud it. I am so happy that I live in Tennessee now, where the grassroots people now are taking control of the country. And I'd never thought that I would live to see the day when at least the average person now is sitting not only in the parliament, but it's sitting in cabinet. And as I have said before, and I would like to reiterate it here again, a lot of people have said that we don't have the experience and that we should have experience. And I was saying that how are we going to get experience if we don't have the opportunity? They have the opportunity now. They will get the experience. And I have said this before, and I would like to keep on saying this. And the Premier made reference to this. There's no member of the seamen's ship business in which was the foundation of this country in the Parliament today. And that tells me then that the torch has been passed to a new generation of Caymanians. And I know that in that generation of seamen that came to the Legislative Assembly from the sea, I know that some of them went to sea and they couldn't even read and write. And some of them, the first time they wore shoes was when they put on their shoes to travel on Laksa to go out in the world to make a living, to develop this country. And some of them were in the engine room, cleaning up the engine room, mopping the floor. Some of them were washing dishes and pans in the kitchen. And some of them were on the deck pulling the ropes. And in a few years after they left here, they became chief engineers, chief stewards, captains, and chief mates, and chief pumpman, and so forth. And all they took charge of all those offices that were on the ship. And Caymanians have a tendency to be very quick in learning things. You only have to show them things once or twice, and I believe that that they have a good stewardship there. On both sides of the house, you have able and experienced people, and I believe that that we are that's going. Their history is going to, the history of resilience is going to see us through, and I believe that we are going to make it. And I hope that I will also live to see the day when I can say, I believe. It's not what they say, it's what they do. And I hope that I can live to see the day when I can say I knew what they did and they did what they said.
Okay, Doc, I want to thank you again for being here. Unless I hear something on the weekend in relation to anyone being on Monday, look forward to seeing you again on Monday. Folks, I want to thank you for allowing Radio Cayman and by extension For the Record into your homes, into your vehicles as you traverse the busy roads of the Cayman Islands. I also want to remind you that we are our brothers and our sisters' keepers. There is always someone out there who's less fortunate than we are, and I ask you to extend a helping hand to them. If you can't do that, then I suggest you donate to a worthy charity, because we always want to consider those who need, not necessarily those who want or even those who crave. So I say to you, have a great day. Continue to support your radio station, Radio Cayman. Join Sterling Dwayne Banks at 12:15 for Talk today. And as usual, we ask the good Lord to bless these three beautiful, wonderful Cayman Islands.
For the Record is brought to you by Vamped Motors, the only authorized Ford and Toyota dealership serving the Cayman Islands. Coca-Cola, available across the Cayman Islands from Tortuga Distributors. Accept no substitutes. Taste the feeling with Coca-Cola. Brand Source Home Gallery, inspiring luxury. Caribbean Bakery, made Cayman fresh.
Also brought to you by Ropers Enterprises, 122 Industrial Way. Products and services for better public health. Green Turtle. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app, the future of mobile, saving lives today. The Ministry of Commerce, Planning and Infrastructure, and by West Bay Pharmacy, taking care of your health.
You are listening to Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
Today's biggest news. Radio Cayman. Your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
Light northeasterly winds and seas becoming southeasterly as a ridge of high pressure is expected to move into the northwest Caribbean today. Our forecast calls for partly cloudy skies with a 20% chance of rain and temperatures rising to the upper 80s. And while she didn't break any rules, Sarah Voss's full body suit at the European Artistic Gymnastics Championships in Switzerland defied convention. Until now, women and girls have only covered their legs in international competition for religious reasons. Voss from Germany was supported by her country's gymnastics federation and said she was proud of her decision. The German Federation has said its gymnasts were taking a stand against sexualization in gymnastics, adding that the issue has become all the more important to prevent sexual abuse. U.S. President Joe Biden is reportedly set to propose a tax hike on the wealthiest Americans. The proposal would raise the top marginal rate and increase taxes on investment gains for the rich. The tax rise would help pay for childcare and education, but would not be used for health care, according to reports. The news triggered a sell-off on Wall Street, with major indexes slipping during Thursday's trading session. Those are your headlines. I'm Karsley Fuller.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
RC Fusion.
Brought to you by TC Paint Shop.
The TC Paint Shop is the authorized dealer for Sherwin-Williams in the Cayman Islands. 943-0565, 27 Godfrey Nixon Way. We are so looking forward to serving you soon.
RC Fusion. RC Fusion.
The Georgetown Farmers Market. It's time you start eating local. The market at the Cricket Grounds. Proudly Caymanian and 100% fresh.
RC Fusion. RC Fusion.
Also brought to you by Green Clean Home Care Services, serving you the eco-clean way. Visit greencleancayman.com or book your appointment by calling 936-2427.
See what I'm saying?
Ouch. Yeah, the hand sanitizer work good too, you know. Join us
for another See What I'm Saying.
Mosquito bite me.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah, man, we gotta continue with the Mosquito. Mosquito 2, the Eachin. Bring your rubbing alcohol.
The sequel to Mosquito 1.
We had so many calls, we gotta do another one.
Change stagnant water in every pot. Mosquito can make babies.
See what I'm saying?
Is a special feature of Talk Today with contributions from the National Museum, a language, history, and culture show on Radio Cayman 89.9 and 93.9 FM.
Mosquito 2, bring on a rubbing alcohol. Hand sanitizer work good too, you know. The Eachin.
Yeah, see what I'm saying? Join us on Friday, April 23rd for Mosquito Part 2.
Let's go.
It's the weekend.
I know you're gonna dig this.
We've arrived at a great moment in time. It's the weekend.
Hello, I'm Friday. I've been waiting for you for a long time. You just saved me.
It's the weekend.
Looking to have a good time. Moving and grooving and forgetting the week that was.
Friday, no work till Monday.
Don't drink and drive. Don't drive and drink. Either way, make it safe for everybody. A message from Radio Cayman, TGIF Fusion, and Breeze 105.3 Weekend Magic.
It's the weekend. It's the weekend. It's the weekend.
Here's my heart.